Jared Casey's story has sort of gone national at this point after he made that catch on Saturday. I was just wondering, from your perspective, what's it been like to see him get all that attention?
It's great. It's a great story. It kind of, parallels this program in many ways, and how you want guys to continue to work hard and do what you ask and be ready when called upon, and some of the most unlikeliest guys get called upon at certain times, and to step up, make a play, it's great. And, see the videos of his family, all that. It's pretty neat.
And then also, obviously, he comes in for Mason gets hurt. I guess how's Mason doing? And also Luke Grimm, I believe, didn't play either.
Yeah, Luke did make the trip, and so we're hoping he can maybe help us this week. Did a little bit here today, but yeah, bodies are down a little bit. I mean, in that tight end room, we lost Will Huggins about a month or so ago. Lost Spencer Rowe. Now Mason's down. Ben Miles was down for multiple weeks as well. So that's why you really also admire. And those are the stories that you really don't talk about till you get to this situation where, a guy stays ready, stays prepared. It's a credit to Andy as his position coach to make sure guys are locked in and preparing in other ways and had an opportunity because, even in the huddle, they had to decide between him and Trevor Cardell who was going to be at each spot. And you don't have a chance to rep every single guy at every single play for every situation. So backups always have to be ready, and he was. And, again, real happy for him.
And then also you list Jason as a starter on the depth chart this week. I guess, what are the sort of plans for that position moving forward, and especially Jalen's redshirt possibility?
Yeah, they both practiced today, and as we continue to work through things, and that's a tough dilemma. Had a lot of conversations with Jalon, as did Andy and Jim. We talked with Jalen's parents. I talked with Jalen's father yesterday afternoon because when we sat down, weeks ago, we talked about a plan, and obviously sometimes those have to be adapted. But we told the family that we would respect their decision on what they want to do. And, talking with Jalon, and he sees the momentum of what this team is doing, what it's done for our locker room, and he's all in to help us build this program, and he wants to play.
So with Jason specifically, how close was he to being available on Saturday? Could he have gone?
I don't get into really percentages. It would have had to be an emergency situation because he really didn't practice much at all. So again, preparation. Now he's taking a lot of reps, but those things we had a lot of multiple discussions on that. Okay, if Jalen's helmet comes off, does he go in? Does Miles Fallon go in? If we lose Jalon, who's really ready to play? And a lot of that would have been predicated on score and situations, but because he really didn't do much at all. And he was out there, he's dressed, mental reps. And then as the week went on, he did better. He warmed up really well. But, so.
And finally, just when you look at the defensive performance, there's 4 turnovers on one side that they forced, then on the other side they allowed 56 points. I guess looking back over the film, how do you think that unit did?
How did what?
How that unit did? Just
yeah, you hit the highlights. Some causing some fumbles, especially on their side of the field. O.J. Burrow's big interception, but even at that time of the interception, they had 3 timeouts left, so we knew it wasn't over. But that was a huge play, especially for a true freshman. And Jacoby's pick 6 was a great read, a great play by him, and really, propelled us in with great momentum and a big lead at half. So those things are all great, but you alluded to the points scored and yardage. I mean, it's still a balancing act, and we still have a lot of work to do. That's a really explosive offense, and you saw it was never over, and so we got work to do. But get 4 turnovers, don't turn the ball over. I'm really proud of us in that regard. 10 penalties versus 4 penalties. I thought we had good composure through the game, and it still went past 60 minutes.
Are you guys going to stick with Jalon as the starting quarterback this week then?
It could be that way.
So you're not going to name a starter for
Probably
this TCU
not.
game?
Probably not. But yeah, he's going to play. So.
I mean, would there be any reason to not start him, especially after how he played?
You're going to try to get me to commit to say it, aren't you? Okay. If you ask the same question 3 different ways, you might just get me to say he's going to start. Right, Jesse?
I don't. What were those conversations like? Did you initiate those with his family, or how did that?
Well, it started with Jalon, okay, and I'm gonna be as honest as I can with you, and what's best for our young men, what's best for this program, and share with you the things I can. Yeah, of course we wanted to talk to him about it, and there's a lot of things that go into it. It goes into the quarterback competition and what we want all our positions to be through competitive nature, but also we saw what. Emotionally, energy, what it did for our program to get a win like that, and so all those things play in a decision, and it's as things were discussed about essentially burning a year, but he could always do that another year if necessary. But it also says what can happen here down the stretch for us, and what that does for program momentum and recruiting and all the other facets of our fan base engagement and what we have to try to do for everyone to go out and win football games. And after some really good discussions, we came to this conclusion, and the family supports it. And you have a lot of discussions with families sometimes, and as you say, this was definitely one of the more positive, interactive, collaborated decisions that I've been able to be a part of.
It's kind of unique too because of the 2020 year. I mean, you could kind of use that and still play 5 years without a red shirt, right? For him. So.
And like we said, what started all this for him was the fact that he was blue shirted, which meant he did not arrive until August of 2020. No summer development program, no summer time to learn the system, even though it's a different system. And then, not exactly sure, you all know better than me which game he started as a 17-year-old. And it was more for him in the maturation process, not just solely based on his play. And going back to fall camp, he didn't practice much the last week and a half of camp. He had a tired arm, and it was something that he was shut down. And I stood before you guys a lot of times and talked about that it was a very close competition, and it was. And when he had to be shut down, it put him behind.
When was the last time people made such a big deal about a game your team won?
Oh, I don't know. I know last year there were some big wins that we felt. I think, I think when you Bill, I think when, excuse me. Maybe we like beating a Rutgers when we were a group of 5 school, and you beat a Power 5 school, something like that, and those things. Not sure, but it was again just happy for them. Not so much in. A lot happens in a short period of time to process, and as I said yesterday, some people the official told us to stay back because they're going to review it, and then it kind of hit me after he said that to me. I was telling the guys to stay back. I'm like, what's the difference? The game's over one way or the other. Just it's just a matter if it gets reversed. So, but yeah.
How do you think your players have handled this? It's kind of been a unique couple days, I'm sure. How have they? Because it's right now you're in a new game week. Have they moved on pretty easily, or?
I thought we practiced 2 solid days so far. That was one of the first things. It's a very good question because one of the first things I talked to them about was my concern about how they handled success. we talked after the Oklahoma game that we played 3.5 quarters or so of really good football, and I don't know if we approached the Oklahoma State week and an excellent football team with the same intensity that we needed to take the next step, and that's what we just closed practice with here today. If you want to continue to be successful and experience more of those feelings, what are you doing more than you did a week ago to get prepared? And that's a process young men have to learn and go through it, and keep demanding more of themselves, not just the coaches. And the coaches have to keep coaching and coach them harder than they ever have before. And I told them that from the start as well, as if you thought we were tough on the little things before, we'll even be more so now.
Hey, just to be clear with the Jalon thing, I'd get to it. For you guys, did you have to meet as a staff to think about what you guys wanted? It sounds like you guys wanted him to play the last 2 games, but was that a difficult thought for you guys?
Did we meet as a staff?
I mean, did you?
Andy, Jim, and I had brief conversations, but we all were brief conversations of where, wanted, where we kind of hoped maybe it was going, but I made it clear to them that my decision it was Jalon's decision, because I owed that. Because though it's a balancing act of tough decisions, the young man has to go back in the locker room and says what was said 8 weeks ago is still true, that the conversations of trust and what it is, because when you have to build those relationships, especially with guys that you weren't part of the recruiting process, if I break that and tell him he has to play, what does that do? What does it do to the locker room? What does it do for the future of the program? So that part to me was, we want Jalon to play. We want to do put together, just like I've said from the start, we're going to try to build this program the right way, but we're going to do everything we can to win for this senior class and everyone to go out every game. And so it was one of the more unique balancing act, decisions that I've had to make in a unique way. But I was very comfortable with how I stated it, because I know then I'm being true to the player himself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and can you just describe what you saw from film from him?
Well, confidence, energy, accuracy. There's always a few plays that'll stand out, and it's not a comparison to Jason or Miles or anyone else, but getting his head around on a naked and getting rid of the ball and still making was a big play. Scrambling and bouncing off a couple guys for a touchdown. Standing at the line of scrimmage, calm, watching the play clock with ease and not having guys jump off sides, showed progress, maturity, in command on the road, never wavering on when things were, his statistics showed, he had a pretty impressive night, but even when things weren't there, he didn't get flustered, he didn't press, all those things I just was highly impressed with.
Yeah, and last one for me. I just wondered. So, Jared talked about the next man up mentality that you bring up, and that Coach Kelnick brings up with him. But you mentioned this kind of the rash of injuries you've had. I mean, can you kind of put some perspective on maybe first game, how far he was away from being in an offensive snap, maybe week 1, that sort of thing? How far he's come, I guess.
I can't even tell you how far it truly was. I mean, he's probably more like, is he going to travel or not, versus even getting on a field for scrimmage, to be quite honest. We're taking close to 6 tight ends at that time. Now I think we have 4 healthy that are really practicing, other than a couple guys redshirting. But it was down the depth chart. I half jokingly said, people say, well, he's listed as a fullback. I said, well, we really don't have fullbacks, but I don't think it'd be fair to list a 5'9" tight end in Power 5 football, so we just list him as a fullback. So.
All right, we'll go to Zoom. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, Lance, I was wanting to know with the recruits, what kind of bump have you seen or just maybe reaction from them reaching out to you guys or the conversations?
Yeah, the links increase. The response in messaging and texting and picking up the phone, I think, is on the uptick as well, and excitement there. So I and to head back to Texas this week, and we'll be in the Metroplex and have coaches out during the day, and some of them will leave Thursday night, and that's probably couldn't ask for better timing for back-to-back trips to Texas and to have some coaches walking in with the logo and getting out to games Friday night. So yes, definitely, we hope a shot in the arm. And but like everything, we can't live on one game, can't live on one moment. We got to make sure that we're doing things to be sustainable and have great opportunity again to do it this week.
Yeah, and I was curious, have you ever crossed paths with Jerry Kill?
Yes. Well, Jim Zabrowski, Jerry hired Jim after our 2009 championship at Whitewater to be his quarterbacks coach at Northern Illinois. And Jim went from Whitewater and 11 months later was coaching quarterbacks in the Big Ten at Minnesota. A little bit from him, great reputation, building programs. I know he's from the state of Kansas. Actually received text message from him upon receiving the job. Yeah, so I've had some interaction. I can't say a lot, but always have great respect, and I know if it wasn't for with some health issues at the time, he'd still be coaching strong, and I know he still has a great passion for it. My first equipment manager at Whitewater was hired by him at Minnesota, went to work for him in Southern Illinois. Yeah, so there's a lot of crossover, great respect, and another guy who's done it the right way for a very long time.
Yeah, and last one from me, just as you watch TCU on film, what do you see from them?
Yeah, you watch them 2 weeks ago, and the energy they played for that first game after Coach Patterson, stepping down, and the timing of that, as we talked about before, is unfortunate for locker rooms today. And to watch them play, I know they've had their share of injuries in different spots, much like us in the backfield, quarterback or running back. But very talented team once again with a lot of weapons. The speed on defense is always impressive to me. Watching again that Baylor game just last night, I was at home and I was like, how quick they were striking and getting the ball downfield. So I apologize for not knowing. I'm assuming they're on the road the last week of the season, so I'm assuming it's their senior day, last time playing there. There's a lot to play for. I'm sure they'll be emotionally and excited and ready to go, so we have to be able to match that.
Hey, Coach. Several players made big plays against Texas. Kyron had the forced fumble. Jacoby and OJ came with interceptions. Jalon and Devin were obviously impressive. And there was also several receivers who had big catches. I guess just how encouraging is it to see a number of different guys making impacts in a big-time win?
Very good question. Because you forget about, even Stephen McBride got his hands on the ball early in the game, almost had the touchdown catch. Our tight ends made plays throughout the game. We've talked a lot about Devin Neal all week. You mentioned those guys in the defensive secondary, and the majority of the guys we're talking about are freshmen or redshirt freshmen. And when you see guys and the ball getting spread around in different ways, guys gaining confidence by making plays, that all goes into the foundation of building this program and confidence that guys will get. And I always go back to when multiple guys get opportunities, also helps your locker room, helps the morale in the locker room, especially when you are still fighting through some tough times in a long season.
And last one from me. What do you kind of hope to accomplish these final 2 games of the season?
What do we want to accomplish? Well, the simplest one is to find ways to get 2 more wins. But again, to continue to progress in all 3 phases. Again, we had a punt blocked, a couple other special teams things that we need to sharpen up on. We had some good things happen in special teams. We kick a ball out of bounds, unfortunately, start the second half, but the kickoff right before that hits their guy at the 2-yard line was a big play. As we lose some numbers and we're getting other guys on the field, we've been able to take some younger players with us on the road and help them in their development. But at the same time, we want to continue for our first units to continue to get better and make the improvement here down the final stretch. Because again, when we've talked all year about the lack of spring practice and other things, these are all important that have to keep stacking themselves as we head into an off season and head into our first spring with this football team.